Water. Giving water to a newborn, it sounds harmless. It sounds caring. On a hot day, your mother-in-law fills a small bottle with water and offers it to your 3-month-old. Because that's what she did with her babies, and they turned out fine. But a newborn's kidneys are not adult kidneys. They are immature filtration systems that cannot handle free water the way yours can. When a baby under 6 months drinks water, it dilutes the sodium concentration in their blood, a condition called hyponatremia. Sodium is what keeps cells functioning, what keeps the brain communicating with the body. When levels drop, the brain swells. A study published in the Annals of Pediatric Endocrinology and Metabolism found that even small amounts of water, as little as 2 to 3 ounces, can trigger irritability, drowsiness, and in severe cases, seizures in neonates. The reason breast milk and formula exist in the precise composition they do is because evolution and science have already solved the hydration problem. Breast milk is 87% water. Formula is calibrated to the same ratio. There is no gap to fill. Your baby doesn't need water. They need you to know that their body already has exactly what it requires. If anyone suggests giving water to a baby under 6 months, even on the hottest day of the year, the answer is always no. Face down. Placing a baby face down to sleep. For decades, this was standard advice. Pediatricians themselves recommended it, the logic being that a baby sleeping on their stomach would be less likely to choke if they spit up. Your parents probably did it with you. The problem is that the science was catastrophically wrong. In 1992, the American Academy of Pediatrics reversed its position entirely after large-scale epidemiological studies revealed that prone sleeping was the single greatest modifiable risk factor for sudden infant death syndrome, SIDS. The mechanism is now well understood. When a baby sleeps face down, they rebreathe exhaled carbon dioxide trapped in the bedding. Their immature brainstem, which controls arousal and breathing regulation, fails to trigger the wake-up response that would save an adult in the same situation. The Back to Sleep campaign, launched in 1994, reduced SIDS deaths by over 50% in the United States alone. Yet a study in the journal Pediatrics found that nearly 1 in 4 grandparents still placed infants in the prone position when caring for them unsupervised. That statistic means this is not a resolved problem. It is an active, ongoing risk every time a grandparent puts your baby down for a nap the way they were taught. Supine face up on a firm, flat surface with nothing else in the crib, that is the only safe position, no exceptions. Honey, natural, golden, wholesome, and potentially deadly for a baby under 12 months. Grandparents often suggest it as a natural sweetener, a cough remedy, or even a pacifier coating. What they don't know is that honey can contain dormant spores of Clostridium botulinum, a bacterium that produces one of the most potent neurotoxins known to science. An adult's mature gut flora neutralizes these spores effortlessly. A baby's intestinal ecosystem cannot. In an infant's gut, the spores germinate, colonize, and begin producing botulinum toxin directly inside the body. The toxin blocks acetylcholine release at neuromuscular junctions, which means the baby's muscles progressively stop receiving signals from the brain. It starts with constipation, then weak crying, then difficulty feeding. Then the baby becomes floppy, a clinical term called floppy infant syndrome. In severe cases, respiratory muscles fail. The CDC and the American Academy of Pediatrics both classify honey as a prohibited food for infants under 1 year. This is not a gray area. This is not a matter of quantity. A single teaspoon carries enough spores to hospitalize a newborn. After 12 months, the gut microbiome matures enough to handle the spores safely. Before that, honey is not food. It is a toxin delivery system disguised as nature's sweetest gift. Whiskey. Rubbing whiskey on a teething baby's gums. This one has been passed down through so many generations that it feels like folk wisdom carved in stone. The baby is screaming, the gums are swollen, nothing is working, and grandma reaches for the bottle. Not the baby's bottle, the whiskey bottle. The reasoning seems intuitive. Alcohol numbs tissue on contact, so it should numb the gums. But a baby is not a miniature adult. Their liver metabolizes ethanol at a fraction of the adult rate. Their blood-brain barrier is more permeable. Their body mass is so small that even a few drops of whiskey produce a blood alcohol concentration that would be significant in a full-grown human. The American Academy of Pediatrics classifies this practice as dangerous and explicitly warns against it. Alcohol does not effectively relieve teething pain. The topical numbing effect wears off in seconds. What remains is a central nervous system, depressant circulating through a developing brain. It can cause hypoglycemia, dangerously low blood sugar. It can suppress the gag reflex, increasing aspiration risk. In documented cases, it has caused sedation deep enough to mimic unconsciousness. The safe alternatives are well established. A clean finger applying gentle pressure to the gums, a chilled teething ring, or infant-appropriate pain relief under pediatric guidance. Whiskey belongs in a glass, never on a baby's gums. Kiss. Kissing a baby, the most natural expression of love a grandparent can offer. And one of the most underestimated medical risks in neonatal care. Between 50 and 80% of the adult population carries herpes simplex virus type 1, HSV1. Most carriers are asymptomatic. Many don't know they have it. The virus sheds intermittently, meaning it can be transmitted even when no cold sore is visible. For an adult, HSV1 is an inconvenience, a cold sore that appears and heals. For a newborn whose immune system is still naive and underdeveloped, the same virus can cross the blood-brain barrier and cause herpes simplex encephalitis, a direct infection of the brain tissue. Neonatal herpes carries a mortality rate between 30 and 50% if untreated, and survivors frequently sustain permanent neurological damage. The risk is highest in the first 6 weeks of life, but remains significant throughout the first year. A grandmother with a tingling lip, the prodromal stage before a visible sore, can transmit the virus with a single kiss to the baby's cheek, mouth, or hands. This is not about rejecting affection. This is about understanding that a grandparent's immune system and a newborn's immune system are operating on completely different levels of defense. The love is real, the risk is also real. If there is any sign of a cold sore or any recent history of one, the safest expression of love is holding, talking, singing, not kissing. Walkers. Baby walkers, they look like a brilliant invention. A device that lets the baby stand upright, move around, and explore before they can walk on their own. Grandparents love them because they remember using them, and the baby seems happy in them. The American Academy of Pediatrics has called for a complete ban on baby walkers since 2001. The injury data is staggering. Between 1990 and 2014, over 230,000 children under 15 months were treated in U.S. emergency departments for walker-related injuries. The most common mechanism, falling downstairs. A baby in a walker can reach speeds of 3 feet per second, fast enough to reach a staircase before any adult can react. But the physical danger is only half the problem. Walkers do not teach babies to walk, they do the opposite. Research published in the British Medical Journal found that babies who used walkers regularly achieved independent walking later than babies who never used one. The device bypasses the natural developmental sequence: rolling, sitting, crawling, cruising, standing. That builds the core strength, balance, and proprioceptive awareness a baby needs to walk safely on their own. Every minute in a walker is a minute the baby's vestibular system, hip flexors, and postural muscles are not doing the work they were designed to do. Canada banned the sale of baby walkers entirely in 2004. The science is not ambiguous. Walkers don't help babies walk. They delay walking and put babies in danger. Cry. Letting a baby cry it out to strengthen their lungs. This is perhaps the most persistent and most damaging piece of generational advice still in circulation. The premise is that responding to every cry creates a spoiled, dependent child, and that ignoring it toughens them up. The lungs claim has no physiological basis. Crying does not expand lung capacity, does not strengthen respiratory muscles, and does not produce any measurable pulmonary benefit. What prolonged, unattended crying does produce is cortisol, the primary stress hormone. In a developing brain, sustained cortisol exposure is not a toughening agent. It is a neurotoxin. Research from Harvard's Center on the Developing Child has shown that prolonged activation of the stress response system in infants, what they term toxic stress, can permanently alter the architecture of the developing brain. It weakens neural connections in the prefrontal cortex, the region responsible for emotional regulation, decision-making, and impulse control. It strengthens connections in the amygdala, the brain's fear center. The result is not a tougher child. It is a child whose brain has been wired for anxiety, hypervigilance, and emotional dysregulation. Conversely, babies whose cries are responded to consistently develop what attachment researchers call a secure base. Their brains learn that distress is temporary and that help is reliable. This produces measurably higher emotional resilience, better social skills, and stronger cognitive performance in longitudinal studies spanning decades. When you pick up your crying baby, you are not creating weakness. You are building the neural infrastructure of trust. You are teaching a brain that the world is safe enough to explore, safe enough to learn, safe enough to grow. Your instinct to respond is not a flaw. It is the most sophisticated parenting tool evolution ever produced. Your grandparents raised their children with the best knowledge available at the time. That knowledge has changed. The science is clearer now, the data is stronger, and the stakes are too high to defer to tradition when evidence points the other way. If this video made you rethink even one habit, the video on screen right now covers every sleep mistake that puts babies at risk, and the science behind why each one matters.